Hello Ratbags, it's Jade. Welcome to an Atlas video. Yes, Atlas, the game that just won't sync. This game has pretty much performed a 360 turn. It is no longer going to be just a massively multiplayer online game. They are adding single player. That's the big news, and that's what we'll be discussing mostly today. 3 months ago I made a video talking about how Atlas just was dying. It wasn't having the player base it should have. Even before they announced a massive server wipe that wiped everyone's progress, the game really was losing thousands of players. Since then, things have become a little bit more stable. The updates have been coming thick and fast, and although they've still got problems getting these updates out on time, they certainly are improving a lot with the content that's coming into it. So forget the memes, forget the trailers and reactions from the top streamers. Is Atlas actually a game that you want to play now? Will it become a fully fledged game and not that Arc reskin? I'm starting to think so. I've also got a tiny bit of information about Xbox. It's probably not great news, but it's just confirmation that Atlas on console is going to be a little bit further off than you think. So Grapeshot devs, formerly known as Wildcard, or half the Wildcard team, went on to make Grapeshot. They've been releasing these big mega updates. I really wish they'd called them something rather than just a mega update. But that's what they are. They're packed jam full with lots of new features, creatures, and different biomes to explore. Each update has added brand new islands. They've been rapidly changing boss fights, and they're trying to add more variety to the game, while also taking into account the PvP side of things, because Atlas is very much at heart a PvP experience. But that may change. These are just some of the brand new areas that you're going to be exploring, more new biomes, and also new ways to customize and make your ship, your armada, look even more personal. And yes, they are adding a seahorse to the game. By looks of things, this is actually going to be a poisonous creature that will do poison damage, and it can even snot poison at you. But this is the one that definitely caught my eye alongside ISO Blackwood. Blackwood is a standalone server map which you can basically put onto any private or rented server. It's something the mod creator of the Crystal Isles has worked on for the last 6 months officially for Grapeshot. So if you're wondering why progress slowed down a little bit on Crystal Isles, this is why, because she's been working on something for Atlas. It's a standalone extension. It will probably have a great big massive landmass or maybe quite big islands, and the idea is that you would play it very much similar to the way you'd play Ark Survival Evolved, running around taming the creatures that would all be on there, building. Lots of these ruins are kind of just a little bit for show. You can't really go in there and make lives in them, but they do add a lot to roleplay experiences, and I think this is what a lot of people have been looking for. So Blackwood was meant to come out this June. It's pushed back till July now. And this is where I thought they were going to go with trying to service single player, where I thought Grapeshot, the creators, would be trying to say, look, we've got another experience for you. You don't have to just play MMO. But of course, to play this, you needed your own server, whether you rent one or create one yourself. But that's changed. Single player mode has been announced. It's been a common request from many of you, and it's currently being prototyped by a team. We expect that we'll have it ready to test on a beta branch in mid-July. This mode will be a true single player mode. You won't have to run a server in the background using up your precious memory. Every piece of content will be available. That includes the same massive world with each and every island. Now this is a massive shocker and a bit of a game changer. With single player, there always comes the question for whether we plan to allow users to play in a listen local server mode. This isn't something we're working on at the moment, and depending on how the single player works out, it may be something we consider in the future. So I'm pretty sure that means non-dedicated server. So while it is single player really does mean single player. You won't be able to invite your friends to come and play with you. It won't be a co-op style mode where lots of people, up to 8 as it is on Ark Survival Evolved, can come join you. It is going to be single player until they've worked out some kinks, and possibly, pending how it works, if they add it more in the future. I think this is the real push Atlas needs to be pretty successful. Atlas was meant to be this 40,000 player MMO. You're meant to build empires. It was meant to be the huge massive game that everyone was going to get into, and you'd fulfill roles. You'd become a pirate. You'd become part of a group or a company. Or you could just go off on your own and live a life being a hunter or an explorer. Of course, the problems, the way they launched, the overhype, it really backlashed against them. And I've spoken about that pretty extensively in my No One Is Playing Atlas, where I discussed the up and coming wipe, but even before that was announced, Atlas was losing players in their droves. Now, they wanted it to be that huge multiplayer game, so why are they changing it now? I don't want to go over this too much as it will be rehashing old ground I've covered. But of course Atlas did have a massive impact when it first launched, for good and bad. 58,000 concurrent players were trying to play it when it did. And that lasted a good solid month before the players started leaving in their thousands. By the time March came around, the game had lost 45,000 players or so. Now it's not always unheard of for early access games, and again I've discussed this at length. What I was looking for Atlas though was their updates to really signify that they were working on progress and keeping the players that were interested in the game and also attracting new ones. They of course announced their wipe, and so numbers went even lower. Who wants to play on a game when the map is going to be wiped? And so their lowest point has been 1,294. Now these are peak players. It's not the whole amount of players that play every day, but this is the highest amount of players at any one time during a day. So immediately after the brand new big update, the 1.5 update that added a whole host of new things, player base went up to 11,000, 12,000 as you'd expect. Each small update and mega update number 2 added more players coming back to the game for a while, or at least kept them a little bit more stable than they had been. By no means are they suddenly rising and gaining more players every day. No, that's definitely not the situation. They're still losing, but it's definitely more stable. They're not losing as many people as they previously were. Players are sticking around in the game much longer. And that's important to recognise that, because that signifies to me that the hardcore player base are enjoying the game more, they're recommending it to their friends more, and so that means that more people are going to stay playing the game. And that's what you need for these games to be a little bit more successful, is for players to really maintain their player base and stick with it. Other games in the last year like Scum have totally almost died, and although big updates bring new players in, it's very hard for them to maintain any sort of stability in player numbers. So I do see this as not necessarily a massive, great, fantastic achievement, but it certainly isn't dying as much as it was. I can't sit here and say I know all of the issues or all of the updates. I haven't played Atlas in months. I got way too involved in PvP and I was a bit of a jerk to my company. I think the biggest problem with that was as well, because it was making so much content, you really need to be investing all your time into Atlas. And if you've been a fan of my channel for a while now, or you're someone brand new, I do lots of different content. At the moment I'm juggling DayZ, Conan and Ark Survival Evolved. So the idea of sinking a full week of work into Atlas, playing it for 8 or 10 hours a day, that just wasn't going to happen. But that's what you kind of need to succeed in the game. So adding a single player mode, I think, is really going to entice a lot of people put off. There really isn't that much content in the game for just PvE players at the moment. That's why it's such an important PvP game. It's not Ark 2. The main game isn't just going around taming lots of different creatures. It's more about exploration, about getting your character more specced up and making these great big massive ships. But nevertheless, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people, a lot of Ark fans that would like to play the game and maybe treat it a little bit like an Ark water version. Running around taming the new creatures like the seahorse, as well as a whole host of other stuff they've added. But this to me is a great idea. Adding single player means that people are going to be more viable to give things a shot. They can practice on their own, they can boost their server stats. If they get into the game, they enjoy the feel of making their boats and crafting and gathering the resources needed and the exploration, then they can definitely take that on board and jump onto the big online servers. Is it a big step backwards for the development team? I mean, this was their idea to have it online only. Most MMOs have some sort of single player experience, whether it's a full game mode or normally it's more like challenges. These challenges often teach you how to play the game and basically ease you into it. As MMOs, big games usually have a lot of components that can be quite confusing. Atlas, I would say, is actually one of the more simple ones, believe it or not, compared to lots of games. Black Desert Online, Bless, as well as some of the big old ancient ones like World of Warcraft. There's a lot to learn in Atlas, but it's not as overwhelming as some maybe would have you believe. But definitely having that single player experience will give players, new ones, a chance to learn the game before venturing out into the big open bad world. Is it enough to halt the slide? Is it enough to keep their player base stable? I generally think it will. I don't think Atlas is ever going to be a game that takes off in the way that Ark did. And I don't know if it'll ever really start climbing its player base stats back up. But this is the seeds, these are the starts of something. For many, Atlas is pretty much synonymous with how to not launch your game. Overhyped, misleading trailers for some, top streamers playing a very buggy, broken game that no one could really play for days on end. It just wasn't the best way to launch the game. I think it's pretty cool that they're going to have the whole world. I thought they would implement just ISO Blackwood and maybe just reproduce it just for the single player experience. Being able to sail, and if you wanted to, it'd be pretty boring, to be fair, going across the whole map. That is a bit crazy. Atlas really is better played in a multiplayer experience, getting yourself part of a company or having just that interaction with other players, much like games like DayZ where you rely on the interaction with people. That's what makes the fun in these games. But nevertheless, I definitely still think there's going to be a lot of people going, yes, I can finally jump into this. I've never played a massive multiplayer game. I've never played with lots of keys, having to use different actions, the special abilities needed, or the way that I have to gather so many resources. I can boost it up how I want, dip my toe into it, and then I can maybe go and join the multiplayer experience. And I'm pretty sure that's what the devs think too, and it's good to see they are listening to what was asked the most, and that has been a single player mode. Ultimately, the game devs want Atlas to be a success, and while they want it to be a success for the game, they want their vision. They seem to have been taking feedback on and on about regards changes to PvP and all sorts of stuff. It will take me a good few weeks to really get back into Atlas, taking a look at all the things, all the changes that happened, to really give you a fully fleshed out idea of how far they've progressed. So I don't want to say the game is better than it was, but from the patch notes at least, from the trailers, from the talk I'm hearing from players that are playing it, a lot of people are enjoying the game. It isn't attracting enough new players, and so moves like this I definitely think are going to be the best way forward. But what about console? What about Xbox and PS4? Jack used to be the community manager for Wildcards, and now obviously he's in charge of Atlas. If you follow him on Twitter, you'll get a pretty good indication of exactly what's happening with Atlas at any time of the day. And what you'll notice as well though is the amount of updates that happen. Literally almost on a daily basis still, there is things going on with Atlas. This is why it won't be coming to Xbox or PS4 anytime soon. I really can't see Atlas launching on the Xbox game preview program like they said it would until maybe later on in the year. I also think the single player working on it now is part of how they're going to launch it on Xbox. Console players are even more unused to MMOs. Sure, there are some definitely around now. Neverwinter Nights for one, ESO, and a whole host of other free-to-play games that you can jump into. But there are still definitely big components of MMOs that just put off a lot of console players. MMO really does just mean massive multiplayer online game. But for many, it does require a lot more thinking. It's usually about power-based skills. You can have up to like 10 or 15 different skills sometimes. While Atlas hasn't gone completely down that route, combat is still pretty much like you'd expect it to be from Ark. In the future, it's very much looking like the power options, the way that you customize your character, depending on whether you're not going to give him some sort of more magical abilities or whether or not it's going to be all about being more hardy and being able to take more hits. That's all going to be playing into how you customize and create your character. Atlas is a big scary proposition for Xbox at the moment, and I really just don't think the servers will be able to handle it. I think there's going to be still some major networking need doing before they could launch something close to the whole host of servers that they have running on Atlas. This is from the 20th of June though, that someone asked any news on console release, and Jack said nothing new that we haven't said already. It'll be making its way to console. Xbox will be this year, but we've not announced a date yet. So no news is not good news really, but it will be coming. Wildcard love to see their game on as many platforms as possible, and so of course their sister company Grapeshot also want that happening. And it just makes them a shitload of money. I tried taking a real good analytical look at Atlas, and this video is 3 months ago now, saying the problems that it faced and why it just hadn't taken off as well as what kind of people had expected. I would like this game to succeed though. I still think it's got something more unique than a lot of games out there. And again, once again on console, there really isn't that many of these games around. It's never going to be as popular as Ark Survival Evolved. There was just something about that timing, that mix of creatures, dinosaurs, jumping on the back of the the Jurassic World films, and the fact that it just launched onto consoles and consoles had never seen something like that. But I do think that Atlas, if it can keep on making the strides it's making, if it can keep on listening to the community, but not too much, but still maintain what they want to do with the game, what their vision is, then I think we will start seeing Atlas maybe start to rise a little bit and certainly start to maintain its player base. So let me know, is single player going to work for you on PC? Have you stepped away from Atlas in a few last months? Are you a new player, been waiting for something like this to happen with Atlas before you jump in? Or is Atlas just simply done? You just won't play it again because of either the issues or the problems. Do remember, it is early access, and these early access games are always going to have these problems and issues. I just think that sometimes developers overhype stuff themselves, and so when it comes to actually playing a game and it's a buggy mess, even though you've seen trailers that make it look amazing, that can be a real killer for a game. I will be jumping into Atlas when they launch the ISO map. I'm going to be hosting it on my own private servers. If you want to come and join, you can come and join my Discord and ask about joining near the time. I just want to see what this new experience is with the ISO map. And of course, if they launch the single player, then I'll certainly be taking a look at that and seeing how you can adjust stuff and tailor it for whatever way you want to play the game. Let me know, is Atlas about to set sail to a new frontier, or is it going to carry on sinking? I am Jade, I do survival games. If you want opinion, if you want guides, tutorials, first look showcases and let's plays, make sure you've got the notification bell on, and I'll see you right back to another video soon.